Hello, welcome to the afternoon sessions here at Grad Ireland Live. My name is Rory Kavanagh. I'm the editor here at Grad Ireland. Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. I'll be here with you for the afternoon for our remaining seminars. And to kick us off with this afternoon, we have a fascinating area to explore, preparing life sciences to shape our future. And I'm delighted to welcome Craig Slattery, who is one of the MSc Course Directors at the UCD School of Biomolecular and Biomedical Science. And I'm going to read this because to make sure I actually get all the different elements correct. But so the programs that Craig works on have been developed to prepare graduates for careers across a range of sectors, including pharmaceuticals and biopharmaceuticals, medical devices and medtech, biotechnology, foods and cosmetics, amongst others. So we've a lot of ground to cover. So Craig is kindly going to share a presentation with us. We have some questions hopefully at the end of the session. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat function and we will address them at the end of it. And Craig, without further ado, I know you have a lot of ground to cover. I'll pass it over to yourself. So I'll chat to you all after Craig's presentation. Enjoy.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Rory. Good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be here to talk to you about some really exciting courses. And of course, I'm going to say that, but hopefully by the end of what I have to show you, you'll have an appreciation for it as well and understand that, I suppose, lofty title of preparing life scientists to shape our future. It's a big ambition and it's a big tagline. So hopefully you'll see why we see that we live up to that claim in what we do in the graduate taught master space in the School of Biomolecular and Biomedical Science at University College Dublin. So if you go and have a look at our own website, which is down at the bottom of that slide there, ucd.ie/SBBS, you will see that we have a broad range of expertise within our school. At undergraduate levels, we have degrees in biochemistry, genetics, microbiology, neuroscience, and pharmacology. So of course, that means we have a broad range of expertise. We have academic staff who are leaders in research in those fields. And a number of years ago, we saw that there was significant demand emerging from employers, and we got our heads together and we came up with, over the years, what we feel is a collection or a suite of really innovative and pretty unique MSc programs targeting various sectors, which I'll talk about in a moment. And some of these they're very unique in Europe, in fact, some of the programs that I'm going to talk about here. And they've proved to be very popular, both obviously with students who want to go on, or with professionals who maybe want to convert and move into a different area of expertise in their careers, but equally so really popular with employers. And I'll talk about how you might do a little bit of your own research and have a look to see exactly where our graduates have ended up, and the wide variety of careers that they've gone on and had very successful careers in, and their global mobility, because you'll see we have graduates working in 40, 50 countries around the world. So the 5 programs that I want to talk about specifically during the session are our MSc in Biotechnology. We also have an MSc in Biotechnology and Business. We have an MSc in Biotherapeutics and an MSc in Biotherapeutics and Business. And then we have an MSc in Regulatory Affairs and Toxicology. And I suppose I'll start off talking about what's common to the programs and the approach that we've taken in terms of designing the programs and making sure that they are fit for purpose, and that they're really arming the students who undertake the programs, that when they graduate and they go into the various sectors, that they are armed with the skills that the employers want and need them to have. So I'll start with what's common, and then I'll separate out and I'll specify what's different, or what are the unique selling points of the different 5 programs, because of course we haven't developed these for the sake of developing them. We've developed them with very specific niche demands in mind, and they address, and the graduates that come out of each individual program have certain unique selling points that would make them more attractive to employers in specific areas. So I suppose the tagline of preparing life scientists to shape our future, it's been obviously exemplified in the last 2 years with the global pandemic, we've all become, and the general public have become far more aware of all the moving parts in terms of drug development, vaccine development, health outcomes, how that sort of research happens, but also in terms of the translational medicine. So there was always a reasonable awareness around, let's say, drug discovery and the sort of research that went on to come up with new ideas. But there's really a lot of public awareness now around the translational aspects, where a really good idea gets translated into a product that a patient can use at the end of the day, whether it's a vaccine or whether it's a novel immunotherapy or repurposing of an old medicine that maybe was used in a different area, and with some testing and some clinical data can then be adapted for a new purpose. And of course, what has slipped under the radar to a large degree is just how prominent Ireland has been, particularly in the European Union, in the European Medicines Agency, in terms of assessing vaccines for COVID. The Irish Regulatory Network and the competent authority, the HPRA, have been really instrumental in that whole process. So Ireland are positioning themselves, and even in the last 3 months, these are all headlines from 8-10 weeks, representing massive investment from global multinationals in Ireland as a pharmaceutical and a biopharmaceutical hub, both in terms of manufacturing and bioprocessing, but also in terms of research and development, which is certainly a shift. 20-25 years ago, we had a good track record in terms of manufacturing, but very much now we're seeing a shift in focus, a recognition that we have massive research capabilities in Ireland, and we're seeing global multinationals voting with their feet and with their pockets, and really investing in facilities to accommodate that sort of work. And it's not just in that space either. We have a very strong track record in terms of medical devices and medtech. There are 9 of the top 10 medtech companies in the world have significant presences in Ireland, or a significant presence in Ireland. And of course, the one at the bottom is maybe less apparent again, but very significant, in that we have a very rapidly expanding industry around what I would call strategic scientific services and regulatory affairs, where, and it's possibly down to Brexit, it's possibly down to other factors, but we're certainly in the last 6 months, we've seen a very significant flow of those types of organizations into Ireland, and setting up significant bases in Ireland, where not necessarily manufacturing or doing the work themselves, but managing it for other companies or for other entities, and really using their scientific knowledge and their understanding of the translational science that brings a good idea to market, operating in that space. So again, a really attractive option for people, for example, who maybe don't want to necessarily work in a lab. They might be really invested in science and biomedical science, and really want to help develop new products and improve the quality of life for patients, but they don't see themselves working in a laboratory. And there are lots and lots of roles where you might find your ideal career in that context. So that's just to, I suppose, justify the headline at the start, that there is a massive increase in investment in Ireland and opportunity in Ireland in this space. And we think that the MSc programs that I'm going to talk about here are really instrumental in positioning people to move into these spaces. So we have this core of 5 programs, and collectively, every one of them has been developed in association with industry partners. So we have a long list of really valuable and really good, and when I say good, I mean, there's trust on both sides, there's good quality interaction and good conversations that happen in this space. Some good partners in industry, in pharmaceuticals, biopharmaceuticals, medical devices, lots of different sectors, who have contributed over the years. They come in, they give lectures, they take students on internships in some of the programs, they act as mentors for business case studies. So we have a really good relationship with a lot of different industry partners, but we also take on board their feedback. So if they're telling us at any point, we'd like our graduates to have these skills or more of these skills, or we would like them to be better equipped to work as part of a team, for example, we then over time, we will adjust our programs, and we've developed them. And we now feel we're at a stage where we have a really strong offering. As Rory mentioned, the bottom line is we're preparing graduates for careers in pharmaceuticals, biopharmaceuticals, biotechnology and food and nutritional spaces, and also then in medical devices and medtech. And of course, there are other areas like cosmetics, like even bulk chemical safety and things like that, which are, they're perhaps fringe topics for a lot of you. They may not be the highlight ones, but there are massive employment opportunities and really interesting careers to be had in those spaces as well. So all of our students have the opportunity to learn from world-renowned experts in their field, both in academia. I mentioned earlier on, we have a broad range of expertise within our school. We have some true research leaders globally in oncology, in microbiology, in lots and lots of different spaces. And our students get to hear from them firsthand and hear about their own research and their own perspectives. But we also have, as I said, great engagement with industry and lots of different companies based in Ireland. We also have a great relationship with the national regulatory agencies, both in terms of medicines with the HPRA and with the Food Safety Authority of Ireland. And we have people come in every year and give state-of-the-art lectures, which really enhance the experience of the students. And it's the sort of thing, when you're sitting in an interview, it becomes a unique selling point. If you can say, well, I'm applying for a job in biopharmaceuticals. I had a couple of lectures from the Irish representative at the EMA, who is the expert on biologics and the approval of biologics and how they're assessed from a regulatory perspective. So they're the kind of things that we can offer within these programs. So quite commonly we'd be asked these two questions if we were in a face-to-face setting. What is the approach to learning and the approach to assessment? We have over the years really adapted and moved, and obviously with COVID we have blended online and in-person learning, and we're going to maintain and keep the components that have worked best. But of course they are predominantly face-to-face programs, and that's where the magic happens, if it's not too twee to say that. There is no substitute for getting people together and working in groups and in a real world environment. So there will be lectures, of course, there will be tutorials, there will be specialist workshops. So sometimes we'll have a small group from a particular employer might come in and do a half-day workshop with one of the student groups. There's a large component of group work within all of the programs, because of course in the real world that's an essential skill, and it's something that employers continuously feedback that they'd like to see more of within the program. We have individual mentors for students, and of course if there is somebody within our catalogue of mentors who you're particularly interested in talking to, we'll facilitate that. And equally, with people come and say, I'm looking for somebody in this area, and we'll go and find new mentors to connect you with. So there is a broad range of different approaches to teaching. As much as possible, we're trying to stick with smaller groups to allow better interaction. There are some occasions where there'll be larger lectures, but they're really the exception rather than the rule, and most of the time you're working in small groups, 30 students, that sort of number, where there's good interaction with the lecturer, and then there's the possibility of doing more interesting things rather than just listening. In terms of assessment, there are a small number of what you'd regard as being traditional examinations, but again, we understand very much that examinations don't really tell you an awful lot about a person's ability. They tell you something very specifically in a limited context. But really, we've moved to continuous assessment in a lot of these programs and a lot of the modules, a wide range of methods, which, as much as possible, authenticity is what we're after. We're trying to align the assessments with real world tasks. So professional reporting, proper in-depth comprehensive reviews, critical assessments, putting together product dossiers, particularly for a regulatory assessment, product development plans, life cycle plans, business development plans, and of course there's a lot of presentations, both individual and group, and that goes throughout. There are individual assessments and group assessments throughout the programs. So really this is, and this is just one example, these are the sort of things we take into account when we're working on these programs. This is a word cloud particularly for regulatory affairs professionals of employers and what they rank as being the most important skills. And then we use this almost as a guide to where we're going to enhance our programs and the sort of things that we're going to enrich in terms of our graduates and the skills that they're going to come out with. So I'm going to talk about the individual programs now briefly. And you will have noticed, obviously, there's an and business version of both the biotechnology and the MSc in biotherapeutics. That is delivered in conjunction with the UCD Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School, it's in the top 50 business schools in the world. And that's been a really fruitful and really important component of those two MScs over the years. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. All of the programs are one calendar year. So you start first week in September, you finish the last week in August, and you're ready to go in the job market 1 year to the day later. They are 90 credit programs, and they're a combination of taught modules, which generally are over the first 2 trimesters. And then the third trimester, the summer trimester, are research-based, project-based, and they may be a project-based in a research lab in UCD, if that was your preference. But of course, more and more, we have internships and external projects, which are quite popular with students in certain spaces as well. And again, we will work with you to cater to what is your most attractive to you. If you're aiming to do a PhD down the line, a research project in a lab might be more advantageous. If you're looking to get out of that space and move in a different direction, then an internship might be more appropriate. So, but the MSc in Biotechnology and the business offering, the main aim here is to broaden your knowledge and understanding of biotechnology in general, but you'll also then learn about the current state-of-the-art technologies and processes in biotech industries. So it's both the theory and the practice. And it's really to enable you to understand the potential applications across a broad range of sectors: drug development, food sciences, and of course environmental biotechnology, which with the increasing importance and focus on climate change and the need to deal with specific issues in terms of carbon management and the circular economy, environmental biotechnology is a really interesting space that we focus on. These are just some of the modules, some of the names of the modules. I won't go through them all. They're self-explanatory. With the MSc in Biotechnology, as I mentioned, the 30 credit research component, you have the option of either doing a research placement within UCD or an internship, and we have 2 dedicated internship managers in the College of Science who help to facilitate that process each year. Instead of the research project, the biotechnology and business students will undertake a case study and a business plan where you're paired with a company who are trying to develop a business plan for a specific product. And then in a small group, usually 2 or 3 students, you're working specifically with them. And then at the end, you present a kind of a Dragon's Den style to potential investors. And it's a very interesting assessment. So in terms of graduate destinations, I can put up all of the names of companies. Some you might recognize, some you won't. What I would advise you to do is to go and look for yourself. So if you go to LinkedIn, search for University College Dublin and go to the UCD page within LinkedIn, you will see an option to go to alumni, and then you'll get a search box. So within that, you can put in the name of the program. You can limit it by time. And you will get a breakdown and individual people that you could reach out to if you like, but it will show you, where people have ended up geographically and also what employers they've ended up with. So I would really advise you to go and have a look at that. The biotherapeutics program, one of the most common questions we get is, what's the difference between biotechnology and biotherapeutics? Really, biotherapeutics, it was developed after the biotechnology program to meet the demands of the biotherapeutics and biopharmaceuticals industry in Ireland. So biotherapeutics is a subset of biotechnology, if you like, and we've expanded that out massively then to create its own unique program. So really here the focus is on bioprocessing and the new wave of medicines that we're going to see over the next 50 to 100 years. These are the medicines that are going to allow us to deal with the big issues, the oncology, neurodegenerative diseases. These are the sorts of medicines that are really going to increase our life expectancy and our quality of life into the future. So there is a big focus on obviously drug development and pharmacology, but also bioprocessing and every stage of developing a biotherapeutic pipeline. There's a good interaction with NIBRT in this program. So NIBRT is the National Institute for Biotechnology Research and Training. They're based in UCD, and they are involved in helping companies to develop bioprocessing pipelines and then scale up to industrial levels. The main difference here is there's a bigger focus on laboratory work. So instead of a 30 credit research placement, you actually have a 45. So half of this program really is in the laboratory, working in a small group, and it's in a purpose-built laboratory in UCD, which has mini bioreactors, and you basically take all the way from an expression plasmid the whole way through to a purified protein product at the end during that 6-month period. There is the Biotherapeutics and Business offering as well. So again, instead of that research component, those students would undertake the business modules. So these are just some of the business modules that are offered in the and business. So management and organizational behavior, corporate finance, marketing management. So these really are to facilitate somebody who is trying to move from a very scientific background into a more business orientated or commercially orientated roles within the pharmaceutical or the biotechnology sectors. So it's very much designed, and these modules are designed for people with a science background who want to move into business. There's no expectation that you have a previous experience in business at all. And again, this has been very popular over the years, but it is for people of a specific ambition that want to move into a different space. The last one is the MSc in Regulatory Affairs and Toxicology, and this is the one that I look after, so I'm duty bound to talk a bit about it. What you may or may not realize is pretty much every product that you interact with on a daily basis is regulated in some way, shape, or form. Everything from a cosmetic through to the foods and the food additives and food preparation, food contacting materials, and then all the way through at the highest level, medicines and medical devices. So within this program, it's all about managing that translational space. And these tend to be non-laboratory roles. They tend to be what I call strategic scientific roles and strategic decision-making roles within organizations. It could be working for the company who are manufacturing the product, but it could also be on the other side, the regulatory agency, because ultimately the aim of regulatory affairs and of regulation is to protect the public from potentially harmful products and make sure that anything that does come through and is offered to a consumer is safe and it's fit for purpose. So we have a massive focus in the program on 3 essential aspects of the product: the quality, the safety, and for medicines, the efficacy or the clinical effectiveness. These are the modules on this program. The unique selling point here in this is really the internships. So all of the students on this module do an internship either with a pharmaceutical company or an industry, a relevant industry like medical devices, or with a national competent authority like the HPRA or the Food Safety Authority of Ireland. So there is a focus on toxicology as the basic science of safety, and then regulatory affairs as the application of that science in different sectors. And we cover every sector from pharmaceuticals all the way through to environmental regulation, medical devices, a big focus on clinical trial management. And again, a lot of our graduates end up in clinical research associate roles, those types of roles. And really a big focus on the transferable skills. So critical assessment and problem solving and communication in teams. These are over the last 5 years, the internship hosts that we have built up and relationships we've built up with this particular program. You'll notice down the bottom as well, the Forensic Science Ireland, the Forensic Service, and the MBRS, the Medical Bureau of Road Safety, who do the blood alcohol and blood drug testing. They also take internships from this program. So a lot of options within that program. Again, we have a large group of alumni. Have a look on LinkedIn. Some of our own graduate tracking, more than 80% of our graduates are employed within 3 months. In fact, certainly in the Reg Affairs program with all of the internships, 35 and upwards of 35% are employed before they even graduate. If you have any specific questions about the individual courses, these are the contacts for the individual course directors. So Professor Cormac Murphy is currently looking after the biotechnology and the biotherapeutics programs. Antonio Garzonvico is looking after the and business. So he is based in the Smurfit Business School, and he's more than happy to answer any questions there. The Reg Affairs and Toxicology, you can email me directly, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions on that. We have an extensive offering on YouTube, so if you want to go and have a look, there are Q&As with all of the course directors, and we also have some nice videos from our graduates talking about their own experience and where they've gone since they graduated. That's it from me. Love to answer any questions. Thank you for listening, and a little bit longer than anticipated, but hopefully still on track, Rory.
Absolutely, Craig, no problem at all. Thanks so much for covering so much ground there, and so very, I think we'll all agree, some very impressive figures when it comes to jobs there in terms of, you know, the percentage of graduates who are employed and even, you know, taken on before they graduate, which is fantastic. We have a few questions here, and Craig, apologies, some of the questions you may have answered during the course of your presentation, obviously, but they are specific to each person's situation, so I will ask them again. So apologies if I'm asking you to repeat too much. So we have one here from an MSc student in biopharmaceutical technology at the recently inaugurated Technological University of the Shannon. I would like to, and he would like to know, or she would like to know, be guided on how they can apply for the PhD program in the area of biopharma at UCD. Now, if I'm diverging from your area of
no, not at all. I mean, it's probably something that would be worth having a more one-to-one conversation, because finding a PhD, it's as difficult as finding a job these days, if not more difficult. And there are, I suppose, specific ways you can increase your success rate. In general, there are two ways into a PhD. Either a student is self-funded, so you apply to, for example, the Irish Cancer Society, you get your own funding, and then you're going looking for a supervisor. Or alternatively, a supervisor gets funding, they get a funded project from SFI or from the European Horizon program, and then they'll advertise them like a job. The timing is different. So if you're going the self-funded route, you need to be, they've generally closed before Christmas. Whereas now this time of year, what you'll see are the advertised positions for a September start. So it is really about finding, and it's a little bit like finding a good dance partner. You know, on paper it might look like a really good opportunity, but we'd always say you need to have a chat with the supervisor as well, because there's going to be a very close working relationship over a 4-year period probably. So you need to make sure there's a good relationship there as well. That's the abridged version, but I'm more than happy if they want to drop me an email, I can advise further on.
That's great. That's great.
Content.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So I would advise that person there to contact Craig directly. We have a few more minutes here, so we'll just try and get through these questions. In terms of internships, are there internships with the courses, and how do they work?
Yeah, so the Reg Affairs and Toxicology, all of those students do an internship each year. And the way it works is we source the internship opportunity. We have our own internal jobs portal where basically the students will see all the opportunities, they'll apply for them. It's a competitive process, of course. I mean, we have internship partners. We can't say, here's a student, take this person. So you're applying on a competitive basis, but we put up ample opportunities for every student. We put up more internships than we have students, if you like, and they're in a broad range of sectors as well. That's in Reg Affairs and Toxicology. Everyone does an internship. There is also the option in the biotechnology program to do that, but it's more on a case-by-case basis. So because like that previous question, if somebody wants to do a PhD, for example, and they're doing the MSc to make them competitive for that, doing an internship is not going to improve your competitiveness necessarily. You'd be probably better doing a more focused research project. But if you're saying, I'd really like to do an internship, then probably about 30-40% of the biotech students would do an internship each year as well.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, we won't get through everyone's questions, but we will get through a couple more. You just mentioned there the whole competitive nature of it. So, Craig, just very briefly, is there, and I know it's a hard question to answer briefly, but, you know, is there a preferred background for a student in applying for these courses? So
I would, if you go to our website, the ucd.ie/SBBS, you will see the entry requirements. There's also the UCD course finder page. If you want to search for that in Google, you can search by individual and you will see. But in general, for these 5 programs, will certainly consider anyone with a BSc background, but also, I mean, we've had people with in medicine, we've had people with degrees in veterinary medicine, degrees in pharmacy, for example, coming into the programs as well. So you will see they're quite generous or broad, and will list subject areas, and then at the end you'll see or an equivalent or a related area. So if you're wondering, email the course director, they'll give you a straight answer, because we're the people who are actually making the decisions on that sort of thing. But by and large, if you have a BSc and there is a minimum requirement of a 2-1 in your honours degree, then you're probably eligible.
Okay, great. And I think that we had another question there just asking about the whole application process. And I think, those links that you've just outlined there. Yeah. And again,
what I would say, and I did, sorry, Roy, just to say, and it's really, really important for anyone who's listening in with an ambition of studying in September 2022, please apply now, because whether it's a post-COVID reaction or whatever it is, the number of applications we're getting from international students has exploded this year. And so we don't have a deadline or a closing date for applications. It's a rolling application for all of these programs, but it's first in, best dressed, and all the best dresses are nearly gone at this stage. So you really, if you have an ambition, get an application in as soon as you possibly can. Get your name on the list, and worry then about whether you're going to take it. Get the offer in hand first.
Okay, and I think that's actually a very good point to finish up before our actual time slot finishes here. Just to reiterate, as Craig was saying, if you're interested in these courses, get in touch, ask the questions. You can see the names of the course directors here on the screen. Go to the links as Craig just outlined there. Do your research, watch the videos, and get the application in. Okay, Craig, thanks so much for covering so much ground.
No problem,
thanks to you all for joining us here today. Thanks for the questions, and we'll be back here at 3:30 for our next panel discussion on the transition from the world of studying to the world of work. Thanks again. All the best.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.